We're so thankful to have the world's strongest bench presser live with us. We should be able to download this live stream and then repost it after we're done. So what do you go by, James, or?
I go by James.
Okay, so I met James in kind of a funny way. I'm working out at Alico headquarters, and the most humble man is just, hey, we're all working in together. And little did I know he was the strongest bench presser in the world. That was really, can you hear me on the?
Yeah, I can hear you.
And so I was like, this is so cool. And then when I heard we can get you on the podcast, I was like, that's awesome, because not a lot of people know about you. And I think that's kind of sad, because I guess because, powerlifting is all about the big three and stuff. And I'm like, we got to have him on. We got to talk to him about everything. So we really don't know each other that well. So go ahead. Like, what's your story? Like, how did, I guess, did you play sports growing up? Like, how did you get involved in lifting in the first place?
Well, believe it or not, I used to be real small. Back in my high school days, my freshman year in high school, I weighed 98 pounds. I wrestled the 105 weight class. Got bullied a whole lot, and I got sick of it. So my dad told me to do something about it, and this is the product of that.
Okay, so like, it just like, we kind of heard a similar story from like a lot of bodybuilders. Like, that's kind of where a lot of bodybuilders came from, is they were, a little like smaller, and then they're like, they just got. You played sports. Were you naturally like stronger than the people you wrestled? Like, how did that, like, when did you like know that you were good?
I don't know. It took me a long time. Maybe 2018, I finally believed I was a little bit strong, because everyone was like, hey, dude, you're really strong. And I just thought, I'm just working out for fun. I'm not that strong. Then I went to a competition and I saw the numbers people were putting up, and I'm like, maybe I am kind of decent.
Okay, so that kind of goes back to, I think, a recent theme. A recent theme is that getting strong. The best way to get strong is to train for 10 years, right? Like it's just a little bit over a long period of time. So how long have you been training then?
17 years.
So that's just a testament to what strength training really is. It's really just a little bit over a long period of time.
In all honesty, only my last 4 to 5 years have been specifically about strength. I've always focused on athleticism and mass, because I've always wanted to be big, because most of my life I was always the smallest person I knew, and I got sick of it. So I'm like, I just want to be huge.
Right. I think that's honestly a missing piece with a lot of younger lifters, is they get right into powerlifting and they don't build any mass. I mean, you need muscle to be strong, basically.
Right.
And I mean, I can't think of any top lifter who doesn't look like they lift what they do. I mean, a lot of these people have just developed. I hear the story, like a lot of lifters nowadays look like a well-fed cross-country runner, as opposed to a bodybuilder. And I mean, you look at guys like, Russell Orhe, and I'm trying to think of other times, like Jesus looks like he lifts. Like, all these top people are massive people. They're big people.
And people don't understand that, because they only see them on, social media. You see these people in person, you're like, holy crap, they're a lot bigger than I imagined.
Yes, I think my takeaway is people are a lot wider. Right, yeah. They're always shorter than I imagined, but they're always so much wider, and like the 3D-ness of them comes out. Same thing for you. I'm like, I knew you. Obviously we were at Bench World, so like when I met you, I was like, I know there's something here. Obviously, the best bench pressers in the world. And then what struck me about you was the quiet killer persona. I was like, that's like the humble champion type thing. So I thought that was really cool. So we obviously, when I meet anyone, I immediately go into sell mode of, my vision for the future of powerlifting. What I kind of developed, I think, struck a chord with you, is that we need to find opportunities for people who are kind of specialists to get in on the greater sport itself.
Right.
I guess well, let's go back and finish up more about your background. So how long have you been actively competing since 2018?
Um, I wouldn't say actively because I had to take some time off due for, health reasons, but I came back in 2022 and I've
Okay.
been competing since then.
Okay, and there was that. How many times have you been to Bench Worlds? Was this
That
your
was
first or?
my first time. I got an invitation a couple times, but one of the two times they invited me, they decided not to represent my weight class, so I didn't go. And then the other time, they decided to use the alternative instead of me. So I'm kind of like, at this point, just say you don't want me.
Okay. And then this time that is a little bit of an interesting thing. It's something people don't talk about enough. I'm a big sport. I don't know about you. I'm a huge sports fan. I'm watching I'm watching football. I'm watching, if it's on, I'm watching. And every sport has an objective criteria. Like even people who are wild cards, they have to meet certain criteria. Like you have to win a certain amount of games, and then there are tie-breaking procedures. And I find that there are a lot of people who complain about your very situation where um, you'll be the strongest, and then they will. So, like in those situations, were there people who were lifting less than you that were going, or how was that?
Oh, every time. I've been, regardless if I competed or not, I've been like number one on the natty side for like the last 6 years.
Okay, so what were they telling you about if they were picking? Because I understand picking alternate different weight classes, right? I understand like maybe this weight class you have a better chance of winning, so they're going to choose that person because they can potentially score more points, right? I totally understand that, but in terms of like choosing an alternate over you, like what were the given reasons for that?
One time they didn't give me a reason, and the reason they did give me the next time was, "Oh, we just decided not to represent your weight class altogether."
Right. That one I sort of understand, the weight class one, because if there's a guy from Ukraine who could potentially win, you might want to bring a 105 or 120 who could potentially win that class. But in terms of like bringing someone else as an alternate who may not be as strong, like what were the reasonings for that?
Oh, they would never give me one.
Oh, okay, so okay, that sounds typical. Sounds very IPF of them.
And the whole thing struck me as strange because they have all these decisions and choices they make, and it's not like they finance anything for you.
Oh, right. Yeah, and so that's a obviously so I generally think about powerlifting in two columns, right? So like column A is recreational, right? And that's a lot of what the IPF basically IPF is recreational. It's literally says that their job is to promote the sport of amateur powerlifting. Like
Okay.
amateur means you're not paid. So what a lot of people, I'm sure yourself included, and I have had a lot of conversations. A lot of people want powerlifting to go in this professional direction, and so the problem is if your organization's mission is to promote the sport of amateur powerlifting, you're not going to deliver this professional product, right? That's not your job. Your job is to basically collect people's entry fees, put on a meet for those people, and that's basically it. So what happens is what happens is you're serving the athletes and not the spectators. That's kind of the difference. Whereas in this pro column, you're trying to develop something that people want to watch. People are going to show up to a tailgate and watch, like stuff like that. I think it is kind of what you're getting at there is that they want to make all that that's just kind of the nature of things, unfortunately, is that um there there's not really a lot of accountability there.
Yeah. Like the other athletes at Worlds, we were all kind of baffled that they had the audacity to tell us they paid 200 grand to be broadcasted, and we're like, but we paid you to be here.
Right. Plenty of people, myself included, have taken issue with the fact that they paid for airtime in that way, spending that kind of money for something like that when we still have when you're still paying entry to get into an event.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to there's definitely some debate to have there. I honestly I don't mind spending money to buy airtime It's where we spent the money, on which network we chose to spend the money. What were the alternatives? I mean, could we have gone to Netflix and like streamed something cool on Netflix? I mean, I think your story could be something cool that you could see in like a documentary and stuff. I think people just relate to bench press more than any other lift, right? Everyone's bench pressed, right? You were in high school, everyone was like, "How much could you bench? How
Right.
much could you bench?" You know, like you could call the documentary "Naturally Strong." Like there's plenty of things in there that are options. I think most of the people were just wondering more so why they chose that particular network to broadcast that on. But anyway, I don't want to. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
It is what it is. There's nothing we can really do about it. It's all about like what's the future, what's next. What's next for you? You're gonna do nationals coming up?
I am. I plan on it.
Yeah, that'll be good. So I was at that high school nationals was at that same hotel.
At this point, I'm pretty much like, I'll do any competition as long as I don't have to put myself in debt to do it.
Okay. Which honestly, that's part of. I hear about the IPF hotels and stuff
Yes.
and having to pay. Like that stuff drives me nuts. Have you been able to pick up some sponsors at all?
No, zero.
Okay. We'll have to go give some calls up there.
Because I tell people when I compete, I'm spending a minimum $3,000, travel expenses, stay, all that to get where I'm going, and I'm like, that adds up when you don't have any payout.
Right. Yeah. Because I know that. I mean, I think someone commented something about Julius Maddox in the on one of our posts, and he's been on ESPN. I mean, they've been doing like crazy stuff with him on that side, but like every other sport is tested and natural. So like I don't know why someone like you wouldn't be a little more highlighted in some of the stuff they're doing. I know obviously like when you see someone bench 800, that's like insane, but
Right.
yeah, I think there's definitely some work we need to be. I think that's probably why you like kind of the stuff I'm talking about doing. Obviously, I run into some of the same issues. How do you fund something like this initially?
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to take a loss for many years. I've learned the hard way. You're going to have to take a loss for many years for what I want to do to be profitable in the end.
Exactly.
But yeah, there's definitely some potential. Hopefully, we can do some more stuff going forward in the future. So your next meet, is that your next meet will be the nationals was that February?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, I may be there. Hopefully, well that'll be a fun one. In New Orleans and stuff. But yeah, and then Bench Worlds is in Norway.
Norway. Yep.
Okay, so that's at least you get a vacation out of that one. So that's kind of like, or you can get a vacation. At least that's like kind of a cool destination. The worst is when they put these things in like the middle of nowhere in Eastern Europe, and there's nothing around to do.
You know what? I actually don't mind that because my philosophy is the cheaper the better. So if there's less to do, chances are it's more affordable.
Well, so I'm of the belief that every event should just be in Texas, right? Texas has the largest powerlifting federation in the world, in Texas High School State Powerlifting Association. Everyone lives there. Where do you live? Where are you out of?
California.
You're out of California. Yeah, so it's one flight. It's a quick flight. You don't have to travel internationally.
Right.
I've always been in the mindset that we should just put everything in Texas and just call it a day. All the money's here, all the events are here. So yeah, that's interesting. Where did I want to segue to? But yeah, so I think we all kind of rely on the same issues. So kind of the way I kind of see what you do kind of fitting into the team stuff I want to do is we've always talked about how we don't want someone who has the world record deadlift to not be part of a world level competition, right? Or a world class bench. We don't want to leave those, like we want to showcase those type of people. And right now the current system kind of prevents top level lifter because it's all about total, which is fine. Powerlifting is a game of total. We've declared that. But I think it would be a lot cooler if you had a team with 3 total specialists one bench press specialist, one deadlift specialist, one squat specialist. I think that'd be super cool. I think people want to see a 628-pound bench. Like, I don't think anyone's going at home being like, yeah, let's not have the world's strongest bench presser at our competition. So that's definitely something I would love to see. How do you feel about the frequency of competition I've kind of proposed? What do you think that would you think that would change a lot of what you're doing?
I don't think it would affect me as much because I pretty much train heavy consistently. So instead of working out, it would just be on the platform. But other people might not have the endurance and power output that I have.
See, he's a real athlete. See, you're a real most of these guys are not. They didn't start as athletes, so they don't necessarily have that mindset. Um, I really like that. So are you doing like singles every week, or how are you? What's your training look like?
Um, like this week, I did 8 to 12 reps. Next week, I might drop down to 4 or 5, and then once I get a little bit heavier, I might drop down to doubles and singles.
Okay, so you're doing kind of that's kind of like the weeder kind of. Do you have a coach, or are you all self program?
Right now, I'm with Jailhouse Strong at the moment.
Okay. Also, I think they just followed me, so maybe we'll have to have them on too, kind of talk about your programming. So they're designing everything you're doing. Are you kind of steering the? How does that kind of relationship work?
Well, for about a year and a half now, and I've been with Josh Bryant, which is Jailhouse Strong. But up until then, I was just solely independent research.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, and there's something to be said about that because I mean, obviously we've all trained quite a bit. You kind of know yourself more than anyone, especially if you've been training for 17 years. You kind of know what works and what does. And you're saying like that 8 to 12, that's bodybuilding type stuff. Like you find that really effective.
Yes, I feel that that's one of the reasons I have endurance and faster recovery than other people in the sport.
Okay, yeah. So you're doing when you do that many reps. Are you doing how many? Are you doing sets of that?
Probably
How is
about
that?
like 6 or 7 sets, maybe.
So yeah, you're gonna have endurance if you're doing 6 or 7 sets of 8 to 12. And so I'm sure you've heard of Agata Shitko. She's one of the
Yeah.
better powerlifters in the world. She's SBDing 6 days a week. Like,
Oh, she's not human.
right? Well, I mean, if you're calling someone not human, that's crazy. But it's no. I mean, doing 6 to 7 sets of 10 to 12 reps is the equivalent of doing that because you're just training for bench. So like I actually someone asked me a question on one of my like ask me anything questions. They're like, who's the best powerlifter or I forgot what the exact question was. But I don't do much like coaching at all. But when I heard she was doing that, and when I hear someone like you say that, I go, duh, if you want to get good at something, you do more of it, right? If I want to get good
Yeah.
at chess, I'm going to play chess as much as I can. Right now, obviously, there are physical limitations when it comes to this stuff, but it probably took you time to build up to doing. I mean, how much weight are you doing when you're doing 6 sets of like 10 to 12?
Anything from 405 to 525.
Right.
Just depends on the percentage for that week.
Right. And that took you didn't just wake up and go do 525 for 12, right?
No.
You work up to that volume 6 7 sets of that kind of a load. And that just clicks to me. That just makes sense. I think a lot of people are
Even
going to evolve. Good.
my rep goal is set no matter if I get it or not. But the objective is to get it. So let's say if I have a set of 8 and I tap out at 6, I'm not moving that down the next week or the week after that. I'm going to continuously go for it until I hit that 8.
Okay, so you're setting a goal, and then you're going to try it, and then if you don't get it next week, you're going to try it again. And so, like, are you then pushing food? Like, how do you feel you try and get that next one? Do you feel like it's just adaptation? Are you eating a little more? Are you trying to maximize your like? How are you trying to push to that next level?
I'm just real patient with it. I make sure I assess everything, make sure my form's correct. I study film to see if I can point out where I might have went wrong. And sometimes I'll see, okay, I moved my foot here. I got untight or I just wasn't strong enough.
Okay, so I've watched like a couple of your obviously if I want to learn how to be the best bencher, I kind of watch the best bencher in the world. So I've watched some of your. You don't seem like you have a crazy arch or anything. Is that just because of the muscle mass, or how do you feel? I mean, elbow depth's obviously not an issue or anything.
When I first started, I just didn't know any better about proper technique and form. But by the time I learned that or wanted to try it, my mobility and mass just wouldn't allow it. So I kind of looked out on that because I tell people every day, as much as I hate to see the arch, I'd be a liar to say I wouldn't use it if I could.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty. I'm a pretty big guy, and so I mean, I can get a pretty decent arch, but my back muscle gets in the way. There's no there's no mega arch when it comes to that. So I mean, that is funny how you kind of got lucky where you've trained with that. Not a flat back. There's obviously some arch there, but it's nothing real. And it's you know what? It's the same thing with Maddox, right? It's the same thing with all these great bench pressers. They don't do. There's something to not having that crazy arch. There's something to just being strong. Like it may be an injury prevention thing because when you put yourself in that kind of a position, you're compromising yourself.
Yeah.
Where you guys are just strong. Sometimes that's the most important thing is just to be strong. So I think there is something that can be learned from that. But that's so interesting that you kind of talk it. All these people who are just so good, it's this common thing where they just do more, right? There's no secret sauce, right? It's you're doing more than someone else is. You're going to be stronger. It's the same thing with Agatha and you. It's just doing more of the work. Do you think there's also a mindset? Do you come in with an attacking mindset, or what's is there mental prep or?
Well, my mental prep's a little different. A lot of times when I'm under the bar, all I can think is, I really don't want to do this shit. But it's funny because the days I feel like hell, those are usually my best days. And the days I'm all full of energy and amped up, it's just not there.
Okay, so it's fuck your mood, follow the plan, basically, right? Yeah.
I tell people whether or not if I'm ready or if I want to do it, it's still got to get done. It's not going to change the outcome. So the best thing to do is practice how you have to play. That way, when it comes down to it, you don't have to rely on your mindset.
Oh, right. It's just proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. The five P's.
Right.
So how many days a week are you benching?
Currently, 2.
2? Oh, so are you mixing leg days into what's your general split then?
I have leg day once a week, and everything else I do 3 days a week. Just at different percentages, rep ranges, and movements. So I train 4 days a week.
Are you deadlifting as well?
Yeah. Yes, I'm trying to deadlift. I suck at deadlift, but I don't want to go balls to the wall until I learn the technique and stuff because I'm not big on hurting myself if I can prevent it.
Right, the risk reward of doing something like that.
So
what is your squat and deadlift numbers look like?
I pulled over 7 before, comfortably, but I'm like, this isn't what I want to do until I learn how to properly do it. I've squatted 800 for reps. The bench is my weakest lift, and that's why I stuck with it when I started because I'm like, everyone can squat and deadlift 700-800 pounds, but how many people can bench 400, 500, 600 pounds? I'm like, I'd rather be a one-man pony with something that not anybody else can do than be, hey, this guy's cool, but a million other guys can do that too.
Right. No, absolutely. And so do you ever see yourself maybe doing some open meets?
You mean full power?
Yeah. Sorry.
I actually plan to switch to full power once I break the all-time world record.
Okay, what's the all-time bench world record? I guess you don't.
Well, in reality, I'm giving it to Thomas Davis, but Open Powerlifting still says James Henderson. But until I can see proof of that, I'm not giving it to him.
Oh, so is there not a video of it, or what's the...
No video, just a bunch of gym lifts, and I'm like, that's not a comp lift.
Right, that shouldn't be on open. Why is that on Open Powerlifting?
I don't know. People have been, putting inquiries about putting. That's why Thomas Davis names has the #1 to it, because not only did he have video proof at comp, he was drug tested. When James Henderson did his 704, he wasn't even drug tested. So I'm like, why did you guys give that to him?
Yeah, I mean, so open powerlifting is a problem because so I always play this game. Any topic we talk about, anything, I go, what would this topic look like in another sport, right?
Right.
When I look at NFL records, it doesn't include like every federation on the planet, right? It includes the NFL. It's the NFL record, right? There are certain there do have to be certain standards. I mean, that's a big problem with all this stuff. I mean, you got guys who say their entire purpose is just to break records on open powerlifting. And it's like, to what standard, at what event, to which judging? Like, there's just too many things. I mean, I half these deadlifts that are on a kabuki aren't locked out because it's just really it's really impossible to lock out like properly, like unless if it's a world record, especially. Try to open up this. Trying to look at this because I do want to. I looked at it briefly, and when I saw that it was over 700, I'm like, that's almost like you need assistance to do that. That's just not even. I don't. Do you think you could ever get up to the 700s?
I truly believe I can. And the reason I say that is because I didn't think I could ever get to where I am now.
Oh, okay. So it's one of those things where you're just like, if I just keep going, yeah, that's such a leap from the 661 to the 705. Right. That's a huge leap.
And it's crazy because the 661 that James Henderson did, they had video of that, but the most important lift of his career and the all-time world record, there's no video evidence of it. I call BS.
Yeah, 1996.
And it was his latest lift.
And it wasn't even in the IPF. It was back when the USPF.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I guess you might as well. I mean, you look at that Thomas Davis one. That's the to me, Thomas Davis is the all-time natural bench press GOAT. Right. I'm not giving it to James Henderson. Well, and look at this body weight. Thomas Davis did that at 441. You did that at 313. Holy cow! Because if you look at the GL score, you have a 7-point GL advantage over Thomas Davis.
You know, that's something I never really paid attention to. I've always been so fixated on the number itself because I'm like, regardless of what that person weighs, they still move that weight, and I haven't done it yet. So until I can, I'm not going to put that in my equation.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely the right mindset. That's my job as the media to paint pictures, to paint pictures and stuff. But you're right, because you and when you're a heavyweight, it's total. That's it.
Right.
It's total. But I think it's so impressive that like you're actually fit. Like that when I talk about marketing the sport and stuff, having people who are powerlifters who are also fit is a huge thing. Like that, because actually there's a funny thing. I put a question into ChatGPT. I said, what does powerlifting need to do to make it more mainstream? And one of the suggestions it had was actually something I never thought about, was they said we should focus more on using powerlifting as a way to promote health. You know, historically, powerlifting's about what? These fat guys in gear, wearing gear, who are taking gear, who are like, you know, using CPAPs. And so I think if we can remarket, and I think we've actually done a really good job, if you look at some of the younger kids who are coming up, rebrand powerlifting into this very fit, very strong, good thing. And I think that's something that we can sell, right?
I think that would sell, but at the same time, I feel like it'll have a little backlash because I can't tell you how much hate I've gotten just because I'm a decent-looking super heavyweight. Like, even from the other competitors at, you know, competition. Like, I'm a super heavyweight. I weigh as much as you. I just look like I work out.
That's their problem.
Yeah.
No, because, like, here's the thing is, like, I just like shot a like a across the bow at equipped lifting, and I'm like,
I
guys,
hate
there's 12. There's right, yeah. It's just like there's 12 of you. No one outside the world cares. No one outside the world of powerlifting cares. Like we wanna push the sport out to the masses, and like you're a better representation of what we want to promote,
And
right?
unfortunately, another thing I've learned about equipped lifting is the average person can't tell the difference between a raw lifter or an equipped lifter, and the equipped lifters are the ones who get all the money and the sponsors. I'm like, well, damn.
Oh, I don't. Do you think equipped lifters are getting the money in the sponsors?
Yeah, they get all the money and the sponsors. All the equipped lifters I've met that are getting anything is because they're lifting equipped.
Oh, that may be.
And
Maybe is that a bench only thing? Because I know in the open they won't
yeah, it
list.
must be a bench only thing.
Okay, I mean that makes sense because I mean obviously they're throwing up like what 900 pounds. Like you got some like
Right.
900 pounds.
And I can't tell you, like, it seems like once a week somebody's tagging me or sending me videos. This person's benching crazy weight, and I'm like, they're wearing a bench shirt, and I'm like, oh, these
Yeah.
people don't know what that is.
I think
Or when they see Julius benches 800 pounds. This guy benches 1,100 pounds. I'm like, he's got a shirt on now.
yeah, I think a majority of people when they see a certain level will question that and will go, "What is he wearing?" Like there was a 1,300-pound bench I saw that was a little was equipped, and it's like I think most people go, "There's something fishy about that, right? Like there's something weird, there's something not quite right." But that just comes with time and education, right? It's like a lot of people like with the UFC and stuff. Like it just takes time for people to understand what things are supposed to look like, how things are supposed to be. And I don't think that's like I think that's just a process of getting us out there more.
Okay. Now,
It's it
speaking of on that topic, feel free not to answer if you don't want to cause any troubles. But since we're talking about equipped lifting and fishy things, how do you feel about Daniel Zamani? Because I think he's full of shit and he's just a load of
so
bullshit.
I'm not too familiar with who that is. What's the story there?
Daniel Zamani is the I believe he's like a Middle Eastern dude who supposedly benches more than Julius Maddox, and he always does these obscene, absurd, crazy heavy lifts at his home gym, but never competes. And everyone like in the world is giving him the crown as the strongest bencher ever.
Got to do it in a
He,
comp.
he did compete. You can find him on Open Powerlifting. He
Yeah,
yeah
I mean,
he competed
my
equipped.
my thing is there needs to be like it needs to be in a comp. It needs to be in a if you're not natty, there's plenty of respectable organizations that will be happy to have you at a comp, right? And will
Right.
sanction your lift easily. Like there are plenty of federations in America. There's only 50 different federations in America. Most of them are gonna be fine. Like if you're doing a lift in a gym, it's great for social media, it's cool, but it's not a world record unless it's done to the standard. So like track and field, okay? Track and field has one governing body that's WADA that tests. If you don't do your record in there, it doesn't count,
Right.
right? If I'm what's a thrower? Who's a good thrower?
I'm not real good with
Yeah,
sports
okay,
stuff.
so we'll just go Usain Bolt. Okay, if Usain Bolt is in his backyard and runs the world record, it's not a world record. It's the same thing.
Right.
Like now, I think that helps build anticipation, right? If you bench 660 in training,
Right.
there's going to be some hype, right? We're going to be like, oh my gosh, is he gonna break it? Is he gonna break the world
Right.
record? There's going to be that's good stuff, but it's nothing until it's actually broken. Now, one thing I will take to my death if let's say you went to the USAPL and did the exact same thing to the exact same standard, that should be the world record. There's a
Yes.
certain level of standard. It doesn't matter if it's in the IPF or the USAPL. That's bullshit. I think that's bullshit. It doesn't matter. As long as you're drug tested and as long as it's to a good standard. And everyone's got phones nowadays. You can film anything. Like everything should be. If you're breaking a world record, it should be live streamed anyway. So, that kind of helps that.
And that's another thing that I feel like is killing the sport. Everyone's competing in the same sport, but these federations have rules that are too different. And it's kind of like a lift that you got a record for in this federation won't even get you a single white light over here.
So I have a different opinion on that. I think for me, I think it matters more in your realm because there is a lot more fracturing because you're all about world records, right? It's not so much about competition, right? Though competition is good. It is a bigger issue in terms of records, but in terms of competition, you're either an IPF world champ or you're not. Yeah. Everyone else I could care less about, right? Because everyone showed up on that day. They repped their country, lifted on the same bar with the same referees to the same standard, and you won, right? So, that I think is even more, I wouldn't say more important than the world record, but it's one of those things when you're talking about like the greatest of all time, it's one of those things you count in when you're talking about everything. So it's actually cool to hear that you're thinking about going full power. I think that's exciting stuff because you go 600, 800, 700. That's pretty rarefied air anyway. That gets you up into the 2200s. If you do the same thing you did with your bench to the other two lifts, like that could be something like I'll be tuning in for sure.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I can't wait because everyone's really not going to like me once I do that.
I will. No. I mean, Jesus needs someone to push him. Yeah. Like that would be awesome. Like if you could do that. Do you think a big squad is gonna? Well, I was gonna ask if you think a big squad is gonna take off your bench, but you said you're.
No. Usually I would say no, but I'm gonna tell you like I tell everyone else. I don't care how strong I actually am. I'll never know if I can squat 1,000 pounds because I ain't brave enough to try it.
Okay.
Because in the squat, if it goes south, can't nobody help you. I don't care how many spotters you got, especially with that type of weight. You're putting them in danger at that point.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to think what's the heaviest squat that got caught. Did any of Ray's squats ever get caught? That's interesting.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, because I'm a big spotting loading aficionado because I direct a ton of meets and I love like the how fast can you change the weights out and stuff like that. But we've never had anything serious we've had to catch. I think people are a lot more smarter with attempt selections now than maybe they used to be. But that's
I remember at my first and second meet, I put in some numbers for bench and they were trying to tell me I couldn't do them. I'm like, what?
Oh, it was too much. They're like they just wanted to make sure you're like, oh, hey, whoa.
They're like my very first meet, they I wanted to try 600. They're like, no, you can't do that. It's not worth the risk. I'm like, what do you mean I can't do that? And I'm like, I'm doing it regardless. You can count it or not count it, but put it on the bar and I'm going to do it. And they're like, well, because I didn't wear wrist wraps at the time, I didn't even know what they were. And they were like, well, if you're going to absolutely try it, then at least wear these. And I'm like, whatever, I'll put them on. And that's how I got introduced into wrist wraps.
That's funny. Well, because like wrist wraps, that when you're talking about that kind of weight, like a big thing in equipped is you can break your wrist if your wrist isn't supported. I mean, that kind of load is not supposed to be on the human. That's kind of the reason for that level of support. But that's hilarious.
Yeah, they were telling me it's not for your safety, it's for our safety. Please just do it. I'm like, whatever.
Right. And so a lot of people like have a little trouble understanding like commands. Like the reason we have commands and all the lifts is for the spotters and loaders. It's so that they're prepared for.
Yeah, my first time I jumped the rep command because I didn't understand them either.
That's everyone's first meet, the classic jumping commands. Hence the name of the podcast. Listen for commands. But yeah, got about 5-10 minutes left before we'll wrap up because I'm directing a meet tomorrow, so I've got to get set up for that. So next few bench nationals and then hopefully bench worlds.
Right.
Anything else in the meantime between that, or just training? I mean, we're actually pretty
Just
close. Right?
training.
What are we, 2.5 months out or so?
Right.
Yeah, we are really. Yeah, that's wow. We're gonna be like, we're gonna be our blink, and we're gonna be out there. But yeah. Oh, it's time for. We'll have to do this really quick. So one of our segments in our podcast is something called r/powerlifting. So we go on Reddit, and I'm gonna read the topic, and then you can go ahead and tell me if it's something you're interested in talking about or not interested in talking about, and then I'll just keep going down. Oh, this might be a good one. The top one is the Pro Raw Big Dogs 5. Remember the Big Dogs meet?
I don't. Funny story. I actually don't follow powerlifting.
You know what? It's hard to follow. It's not
Yeah.
it's not an easy sport to follow. As I've learned trying to run a podcast. So Big Dogs is actually a really, really cool meet. It's one they do in Australia. It's like monolift, and it's like the Lily Bridges,
Yeah.
they're big into that. It's a meet in Australia. So it's actually right around the corner. And like you've got Colton Engelbrett with 1,120 kg total.
Wow.
Yeah, he's legit. He's gonna take down Hack, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's something
yeah. When you
I'm
hear
definitely gonna
that,
know.
you're like,
Yeah.
he's from South Africa. So the whole concept is it's no weight classes, no formula. It's the biggest total wins. So it's raw with wraps, mono, and specialty bars. And they're actually doing it in like an auditorium in Australia. So I'm definitely gonna have to tune in. It's at it's tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let me see what other ones. Go ahead.
I was just waiting for you to see if that time's correct or not.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
tonight. American Pro, they're talking about. I don't know about that. Oh, equip lifting throw. Gross. Oh, this was a good one. This was actually right up my alley. It was where the fuck is powerlifting headed?
That's definitely a topic to talk about.
Predictions for 2026, hopeful outcomes, and random banter. So, yeah, we can talk about this. So that's my big thing. My big thing is where's powerlifting headed? What are people doing? Like what's going on? What's the future of this? So I just want to see powerlifting adopt some base. They don't have to do all the crazy shit I talk about. I just want to see people adopt some very basic things. No more 5-hour events. Make events like 2.5 hours max. Right? Make it watchable. Make it enjoyable.
Right.
Make it something where me and my buddies are going to go. We're going to drink some beers. We're going to watch some guys lift some big weights. We're going to get some food. Like, make it something enjoyable. Stop making events have. So here's my big problem. So I'll take what you do, for example. So in the heavyweight class, you'll have a flight of 12 heavyweight lifters. Okay? Outside of lifter like number 4, top 4, none of those guys can win. So quit putting them on TV.
Sense.
Quit putting them on TV. Okay? Put the top 4 people on TV in the heavyweight weight class. Put the next 4 people on TV in the 120. Put the next 4 people on TV in the 105. Everyone else go lift in the morning. Okay? You don't need to be in prime time, because it's like, here's what happens. I watch you lift, and then I got to wait for 11 other jamokes who aren't going to win to lift before I get to see you again. Right?
Yeah.
It's so stupid. All you have to do is take those people, put them in the morning. You guys can still lift. You guys paid your entry. You get to lift in the morning. The people who should lift at night are the best people. Take the top 3 or 4 in each weight class, put them in one flight, and go crazy. Like, little things. That's such an easy change. It's so easy. It costs nothing. All it is reshuffling things. I would love to see that. That would be huge, because especially for in the full power, it would really, really help. Same thing with bench. It would help, because you could see people. I think you would end up maybe in the same flight as who's the Japanese bencher who's like over 500. That guy.
Yeah.
Like, to have you in the same flight as him prime television, man. Prime television. You got him, you got there's probably a couple other good lifters in there. It would make it way more entertaining. And the people who say, well, what if someone could, what if someone in fifth, could win? Great. In track, if you're in the slow heat, you can still win. There's nothing stopping you from winning. You just aren't in the fast heat. Like, it's the same kind of thing. So that's why I'd like to see powerlifting head. I would like to see more fan experience stuff. I'd like to see more beer at the events, like have some fun. I don't know. How about you? What would you like to see?
I think I would like for it to become more mainstream or popular, and I think to do that, they need to introduce some personality. They need to let the lifters do stuff like wear singlets that might say something about them, or have like a walkout song or something, and cut it off before the lift. Just something that people can associate with that person to get a little bit about who they are as an athlete or just outside of the platform.
Yeah,
Kind of like
that's a huge thing we talk about in all sports. Obviously, I've done a lot of research into promoting events and stuff, but yeah, people need to relate to people. People need.
right.
I know Patrick Mahomes has 2 kids. I know his wife's annoying as fuck. Like, I know all that stuff because they talk about it. They talk about, Travis Kelce dating Taylor Swift. Like, they tell that story. Like, and I think that's kind of why we do this media stuff. Like, I want to tell your story, like why, like how you got into this. I want to talk about your training, because like if people go, hey, I learned about your training. Like, I think that was the most interesting thing I took away from all this was how your training volume is so high. Like, that's an interesting thing. Like, and so I'm going to be on the lookout for that. Like, hey, is he doing 6 sets of 12 with 500 pounds? Like, yes, I'm going to take that. That's he's building his base for future training. Like, now I'm attached to it, right? I'm going to be following along the story. That's what, right? You're 100%. Anything else you want to touch on there?
Another thing I think that's hurting the growth of powerlifting is the federation focuses too much on pushing their name and image out there versus the athletes that make them credible. Like, you don't see the NFL saying NFL all day. They put Pat Mahomes in the media. They talk about Pat Mahomes. They don't talk about the NFL. Same with basketball. They talk about Steph Curry, LeBron, not the NBA.
So,
Like, make the sport about the athletes and not about the federation.
right.
And then more people will come.
So that's 100% a major issue. And so the reason I think that's such a major issue is the federations are not about making money, right? They're
Right.
nonprofits. And so the problem with that is when I need to make money, I have to develop a really, really good product, right? Because I have to sell it, right? And so what
Right.
happens is it becomes this thing where all these people are they're like servants of the cause, right? They're like, oh, I'm serving powerlifting, and so I should get credit because I'm doing this for free. I'm doing this to help, right? It's this volunteer thing. And like, I see this like this. This drives me nuts because I MC these events. We line up all these referees, and like there's this big thing about the referees, and I'm like, you're getting paid to do a job. Just sit in the chair and do your job.
Right.
Like, it drives me nuts. Like, I don't need credit. I'm MCing. They're like, I remember these guys are like, oh, you need to say your name. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm just a voice. I've never been to a sporting event where the MC goes, yeah, and I'm Sebastian Carcione, you're MC. No, it's
And
not
I was
about me.
just
It's
going
about
to say that.
exactly. It's about the lifters.
Because like when we had the banquet after Worlds, they introduced the whole staff, which was cool, but then they started passing the mic around for them to introduce themselves. I'm like, so the people here, I'm pretty sure they would rather hear an introduction or something from the athletes that you're presenting awards to versus the guy that was sitting at the judge table.
Yeah, I think that comes from the volunteerism culture of powerlifting, because how powerlifting, everyone used to be a volunteer. Like, everyone. And these people do work extremely hard, but like the staff work extremely hard. I think it comes because back in the day, if you were equipped, all powerlifting was equipped, so you had to put your equipment on, and you needed someone to help you. And so everyone helped everyone, and it was a very volunteer-esque thing. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I think, a banquet, what you do is you go, hey, thanks to all our staff. They worked 48 hours, and that's kind of it.
Right.
Athlete, you're right. This guy just commented, athlete interests have been a staple of US. They've been a staple of sporting events since I was 12. The All-Star game, the coolest part of the All-Star game was watching them introduce all the athletes.
Right.
Like, we don't need to introduce the referees. Whatever time we spend introducing the referees, we should spend introducing the athletes. You're right, 100%. Preview who's coming up. Hey, he's going to be attempting the world. Yeah, that's
something else I feel like will help the sport grow is after major competitions, you take maybe like the first top 3 placing athletes and let them have some type of press conference talking about where they think they went wrong or like how they could have won or just what they thought about the process or how they thought it was going to turn out. Just something for the people to watch them like talk amongst each other, just like they do for before fights and after fights. The athletes face off, they talk about blah, blah, blah.
That's honest. Yes, obviously, yes. That, you know who I want to. I want to talk to the coaches after that. Hey, why did you pick that? Why did you pick that attempt? You could have won if you picked a better attempt. Like, why was that? Justify it. Tell me why. Like, I think that's so. Yes. What? That's like. But here's the thing. That's such a bare minimum thing. Like, just.
And I think coaches
so
have too much power. Yeah, I think coaches have too much power because they get the final say on your attempt. And I'm like, why should I allow you to put limitations on my output when I'm the one who has to do it?
Yeah, I think that's interesting because there is obviously still team scoring involved. So
yeah,
that's you're right. I mean, I think that's why.
Like if I say I can do this, why do you get to tell me I can't do it because you're afraid I might not be able to do it? You're not there with me when I'm training. You don't know what I can do.
Right. And I think that's just a broader issue.
Yeah.
Like that exists in power. Like that doesn't. I'm trying to think if that exists in other sports. Like I mean, like like you said in NFL, like the coach is making the final decision. Like you know, Mahomes isn't vetoing Andy Reid. He may have a pretty loud voice, but I guess that one I do have a little more.
Well, I feel that's a little different because in a football game, if you mess up, the whole team loses. If one weight class messes up, the other gold medalists still get their gold medal.
Oh, but I think that's where team scoring comes in because, like, if you did mess up, the team could lose. So it is because Worlds is still a team event,
and that's why I said they need to make it more about the athletes because none of us are there to compete as a team. We're there to represent ourselves.
Okay. That's an interesting point. Yeah, you're basically saying we. You know, I have heard people say we should pretty much eliminate team scoring from Worlds. I don't think that's
we win.
Yeah, that's honestly not the worst idea. You know, I'm the team powerlifting guy, so like, you know, I love the idea of team powerlifting. Like, I think it is the future. Maybe not at the international level, but like people are just more interested in their team than they are an individual athlete. They want both, right? They want their individual athlete and their team. I want my Chicago powerlifting team, and I want to, you know, root for James. Like I want it all, right? I think that's kind of what's missing. So that's an interesting point. I think that, you know, is something that maybe I don't know if it necessarily helps the sport because I think I want to root for Team USA. Like I want Team USA to win. If the Russians win, I'm not going to be happy. So that's an interesting point when it comes to stuff. I mean, obviously, I think that's why that's so interesting. You know, because it's not record based; it's winning based. You want to win the gold. I mean, your incentive should be aligned with your coach, right?
I mean, as far as coaching, my coach's incentive is whatever I want.
Your personal coach or the Team USA coach?
Well, I think Steve was the Team USA coach. I'm not sure. Yeah, that was like my first or second time meeting him. I didn't know those guys till I got there.
Okay, so like maybe the broader issue is everyone's not as introduced as they should be.
Right.
It may be one thing.
Athlete here is, hey, you've done all this hard work to get to where you're at, and you pay money to get here, and now that you're here, somebody you've never met is going to tell you what you're going to do, regardless of what you want. That's what the athletes here.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously that's a broader that keep talking about broader issues. That just seems like a whole. And I've heard that before.
Exploitation. That's what it feels like. At that point, it's exploitation. We're going to tell you what to do, and you're going to do it, and you're going to pay us to tell you to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a legitimate concern, and like that. That's why I would much prefer to pay people to come out and compete. And then, I mean, I paid people to come do the first pro duel, like pay people to come out to compete. And then the good thing about the pro duel is the incentive is to lift as much as possible. Like there's no,
Right.
like there may be at the end, you might want to take a few kilos off to like just make sure you hit a lift. But like your incentive is to hit as much kilos as possible to help your team win. So that's interesting. Well, I have just a couple more seconds, but thanks for coming on. Sorry about our technical. We're trying to like produce a better show, but Instagram come to the rescue and save us. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Thanks for having me. Maybe next time we'll have bigger and better things to share with the people.
Yeah, I'd love to have your coach on too. We talk a little bit about programming and stuff, so maybe that's what we'll do next. But anyways, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, man. You have a good day.
I appreciate it. You have a good one too.